Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson tonight. America is a great country precisely to the extent that it's a fair country. Fairness is the most important American idea. It's the foundation of all others, and equality before the law is the purest expression of it. That's why the Roger Stone case ought to horrify anyone who has followed it. Left or right, Republican or Democrat, doesn't matter. 9 years in jail for lying. That's what prosecutors have demanded that Roger Stone receive. How disproportionate is that sentence? Let's put it this way. James Clapper and John Brennan are both confirmed perjurers. They did it in public. They'll never be prosecuted. At this moment, they're getting rich on television. Meanwhile, for the crime of sending explicit sexual photos to a child, a serious felony, former Congressman Anthony Weiner got just 21 months, and he served less. Weiner was an admitted sex offender, but he was also a close personal friend of Bill and Hillary Clinton's. And in the end, that's what mattered most. See how this works? Prosecutors want Roger Stone to serve 9 years, not because he hurt someone or hurt this country. He didn't. But because they hate him. As statist liberals, they hate his politics. But above all, they hate his attitude. Stone made fun of the ruling class. That's not allowed, and they never forgot it. They're trying to kill him for it. How unscrupulous are they in pursuit of that goal? Well, prosecutors lied about what Stone did. They linked him to foreign election interference when he had no tie to that, and it had nothing to do with the charges against him, not one thing. Then, apparently, they deceived their superiors, the Department of Justice, about it. Attorney General Bill Barr suggested as much today. Watch.
I was under the impression that what was going to happen was very much what I had suggested, which is deferring to the judge and then pointing out various factors and circumstances. On Monday night, when I first saw the news reports, I said, gee, the news is spinning this. This is not what we were going to do.
So you were surprised?
I was very surprised. And once I confirmed that that's actually what we filed, I said that night to my staff that we had to get ready because we had to do something in the morning to amend that and clarify what our position was.
Now, thanks to details we've just learned, and you have to ask yourself, why are we just learning them? But we know them, and they lead us to the conclusion that the charges and recommended sentence against Roger Stone weren't the only parts of the process that were distorted by politics, grotesquely. The trial itself was too. During the jury selection process at Roger Stone's trial, lawyers asked the eventual foreman of the jury if there was anything that would affect her ability to judge Stone fairly. No, she claimed, she hadn't paid much attention to the Russia probe. That turned out to be a lie, and a stupid one at that. That juror's Twitter account is public, and it turns out that she's an anti-Trump zealot who closely followed the Mueller investigation. In one tweet, for example, she called Donald Trump, quote, the Klan president. When Stone was taken into custody in a dawn raid by dozens of federal agents armed with automatic weapons and an airboat, she mocked the idea the arrest was excessive. Oh, seems fine to me. This is not a neutral person. This is not someone capable of judging this trial fairly. This is a partisan who lied about who she was. Roger Stone is facing life in prison because an Obama-appointed judge, Amy Berman Jackson, allowed this woman to run the jury. And that's all fine with CNN, which is colluded with the Justice Department from day one on this, and which is rooting for Stone to die behind bars. But it should be deeply upsetting to anyone who cares about fairness, and that should be all of us, but it's not. For example, Republicans in the Senate. You'd think they'd be outraged by all of this. And yet it's perfectly obvious they could care less. Watch.
I'd rather not there be political interference in such cases, but I'd rather look at the details before I answer hypotheticals. Do you think that would be a good idea if we went that route?
There's a reason why he's not made a decision. I assume that he's not contemplating it seriously at this point. So.
He might be. I mean, he didn't rule it out, and he's already been convicted on 7 counts.
But he didn't rule it in, so.
The president also has not ruled out a pardon for Roger Stone. Would that be a good idea?
Well, he hadn't said he would do it, so we'll wait until that happens, if that happens.
Yeah, whatever. Not really paying attention. Naming new post offices. If you're a Republican voter, and you may be, these are the people you vote for to protect you and your country. Think they will? Democrats, meanwhile, have whipped themselves into a frenzy of bloodlust. Roger Stone must rot behind bars. If the president tries to save Roger Stone, we'll impeach him again.
Might you impeach him over this, over Roger Stone and the sentencing?
You know, we're not going to take our options off the table. We don't wake up in the morning wanting to impeach him. You know, we want to work with him on prescription drugs, background checks, and infrastructure. But we're not going to let him just, torch this democracy because he thinks that he's been let off once and we're not going to do something about it.
Now, Eric Swalwell may be the slowest of the 425 House members, certainly in the running, 435, but even he can remember talking points. So this is among their plans, another impeachment. Why would they do that? Why do Democrats care so much about punishing Roger Stone? Here's why. Because if Roger Stone spends even a day in jail, they will point to him for the next 40 years as evidence that Russia collusion was real. That's what they really want. Let's hope the president doesn't let them have it.
It is Monday, the 17th of February of 2020, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam, and our daily special is River City Hash Mondays. Oh my, another one of those weekends. Stephen Miller got married. Yeah, to a Walden. No, and hey, David said no relation to him. All right, but New York Times had the wedding and a reportage of the wedding, and apparently now Stephen Miller is an esteemed statesman instead of a white nationalist. They couldn't call him a white nationalist. Well, they haven't been able to call Trump a liar either. But so Stephen Miller is married now, and I doubt very much that it will soften his resolve in his bigotry towards anybody not white, because I kind of have a feeling that his betrothed has the same philosophy as he. I suspect it. Yeah, well, she comes out of Pence's office, so you would expect that she would hold the same sentiments. Intimately, I might add. Yeah, so we also got Tucker Carlson at the top here, gaslighting the hell out of America. Well, let me put it this way. He's not gaslighting America. He's only telling the Trump voters what they want to hear. And all that they've heard is that, well, apparently God bows down to Trump now because God said that Trump is perfect. So God bows to Trump. Don't call him a cult, though. And I got to say, I'm quoting a sign from an actual yard of a Trump voter. I'm not making it up. This fellow intimately believes, intimately? Yeah, from the deepest part of his soul. He believes that God bows to Trump. Trump is more powerful than God. Don't call him a cult, though. Don't do that. That would be, that's insulting them. Yeah, well, let's insult him some more. So, Tucker Carlson, let's get back to this. Tucker Carlson is gaslighting the hell out of us. Tucker, you're saying that if we incarcerate Stone, that we'll be pointing to that as proof that the Russian collusion, for the next 40 years, the Russian collusion actually happened? Well, you know what? He doesn't even have to stay a day in jail, and the Russian collusion still actually happened. It was only in the Mueller report. Jeez, it just... Grr. Yes. Now, I know no one got actually convicted, but that was only because, why? Evidence was withheld from Mueller, and they were trying to fire his ass through the whole thing. Mueller cited 10 instances where they tried to get rid of him. Why don't we hear about that? And looks like Roger Stone, he's really pushing for a new trial now. Once again, if they had an issue with the jury forewoman, they could have done it in voir dire. And I keep hearing that she was tweeting during the trial. I don't see any evidence of that. She tweeted after the trial about Trump and all that. There's some things from way back in 2012, apparently. But Tucker Carlson pretty much put a target on all the backs of the jurors and the jury foreman in particular for a little lone wolf action. Yeah, that's what they're hoping for, little lone wolf action. Doxing the jury. Now, I don't understand this. I think it's the government of the United States is the we here who are trying Stone, convicted Stone, and will be incarcerating Stone, not we Democrats. And where, what is this, that only someone who kisses Trump's ass can sit in judgment of someone who might have broken the law for Trump? What kind of BS is that? That's not bias? First of all, Democrats, by and large, play by the rules, and that's why we always lose. So let's get back to what happened to Stone here. Okay? He not only lied 5 times, he not only obstructed justice and the investigation, but he also intimidated the jurors, he intimidated a witness, and he intimidated the judge. He put a hit out on the judge. Well, in a way. He put the judge's face in like a target practice bullseye. Now, that could be intimidation, you'd think. And it is. So let's be clear about this. We're not trying to get rid of Trump because we hate him and his policies. That's the only reason that we're getting rid of him. No, because he's a mobster. And you talk about the Russian collusion being non-existent. He's been colluding with the Russians since, I got to tell you, Ivana. It's only part of the public record. Do we just disregard the public record? And let's look at all of Trump properties sold over asking by tens of millions of dollars in some instances to Russian mobsters. Not just one. We're talking scores and scores and scores of Russian mobsters laundering money through Trump properties. It's all part of the public record. Why does Trump not get caught up in this? Well, that's what we'd like to know. We'd like to know a few things. Like, why did Anthony Kennedy's son do what he did? And why did Anthony Kennedy quit when he did? And why is Deutsche Bank still, why is the Trump administration still trying to keep Deutsche Bank from giving up documents that have been asked by or through a lawful order? Why? Now, I know it's very, very early in the morning for some people, and it might be a little too early to start with the invective, but I got to say, Roger Stone is not a dirty trickster. That's because they can't say rat fuck during primetime news or in a family newspaper, but Roger Stone calls himself a rat fucker. He's not a dirty trickster. That's just nice. That's cleaning it up for public consumption. Roger Stone is a rat fucker, and our judicial system in this trial is being rat fucked. Do we allow it? No. Once again, just because it was an Obama-appointed judge, wow, we had one. How dare we get a judge? Tucker Carlson's argument is that somehow Obama got a nominated judge appointed. How did that happen? I thought they were supposed to have complete blockade on all judicial nominees. How'd that one slip through? Probably must have been in his first term, when they weren't quite on the ball of obstructing absolutely everything. So let's talk about hate. Did they do that because they just had a policy difference? No, they hated the fact that a black man won the vote twice. They tried to other him over. They're still othering him. And Trump is threatening to arrest Obama and put him under trial? Is that some sort of projection, Donnie? Because I got to assure you, you might be a little, I don't know, mini Hitler or a mini Mussolini, but I doubt very much you'll be held to account when this is all done. I have my hopes, but we Democrats, for some reason, always say we got to look forward so that all the stuff that happened in the past catches up with us again, and we're in the same boat as we were before, over and over and over, because we don't ever hold anybody to account, because it might look like some political get back. How about if you break the law, you suffer the consequences, regardless of where it is in the election? Never stop them. In fact, they make shit up. For instance, the Intel community is real quick to give up any investigations or reports that they have on the Bidens. But they wouldn't give it up to an actual legal investigation on impeachment because the Democrats were running the House. Which reminds me, Trump has given his marching orders to Republican state chairmen in blue states. He has ordered them to win the popular vote. Okay, so when you're ordered to win the popular vote, you don't leave it up to chance. That means if you're not going to stuff the ballot box, you got to keep a lot of Democratic voters from voting, and whatever it takes. It is all going to be extrajudicial. You know it. There's going to be not millions. Could be. There's some states that probably have a few million that they could kick off the voting rolls rather easily. But, yeah, they're going to be kicking people off the voting rolls. There's going to be any number of voter suppression. People are going to be arrested for voting under trumped-up charges, and I put the trumped-up thing on there on purpose. No pun intended. And that's not even mentioning the Russian and probably Chinese help he's getting. Or any other number of people who said, oh, yeah, we'll help that guy out. We might get a good deal out of it. So our FBI is under investigation. Our intel community is under investigation. And yet, the leadership of those two organizations seem to be rolling over for Trump. Can you imagine? I don't even want to get into this. Every time we say, can you imagine Obama getting away with this? No, you can't. You can't even imagine Obama getting what was legal, let alone anything illegal. Jeez, he couldn't wear a tan suit without being threatened with impeachment. And they did. That wasn't a joke. Fox News was aghast. Insulted the office of the presidency by wearing a tan suit. Look how black he looks in that tan suit. It's such a disrespect to the White House. That was their argument. But sending in the Gestapo into cities that are by and large blue, because they're sanctuary cities. Sending in the Gestapo with stun grenades to arrest immigrants? That sounds like a military operation to me, even though they say, it's just a constabulary. I am going to maintain from here on out that supposed civilian organizations like ICE and the Border Patrol are no longer civilian. They are military. They are quasi-military organizations. They have all the trappings of the military. They have all the accoutrements of the military. And they even have all of the armaments of the military. Yeah, they have jets, too. They could be fit for weaponry easily. If they don't already, I'm sure they do. So they are a quasi-military organization. The Posse Comitatus Act is being violated. Doesn't matter. It's been violated for quite a while now. And no one cares. It's just a quaint little thing. But regardless, we have the military occupying liberal cities because Donald Trump wants his way and he wants to terrorize black and brown people and their white friends. And we're just going to act like that is normal. The Gestapo got a Gestapo, and Herr Fuhrer is very mad. What's on the rest of the menu here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy? Well, immigrants are at risk for deportation because of a motor voter registration error. How nice. California's legislature is expected to approve a resolution offering an apology to Japanese internment victims for the state's role in aiding the U.S. government's anti-Japanese policy. So I'm wondering, 75 years hence, will we be offering an apology for Trump's anti-immigrant, anti-brown and black people policy? Let's hope. Let's hope it doesn't last that long before an apology is offered or proffered. And Alaska's Supreme Court lifted a stay blocking election officials from printing and distributing recall petitions to oust Republican governor and rabid Trump ally Mike Dunleavy. After the break, we move to the chef's table where Filipina disruptor patrols help to keep Duterte's death squads at bay. And the Russian-backed Syrian army has seized most of the rebel-held Aleppo province. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. At the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com, to the rightish of the page is our chat room link, monitored by Kelly Lincoln. Thank you, Kelly. To the leftish of the chat room link that just happens to be at the bottom of our homepage, that just happens to be at netrootsradio.com, you will notice the link for our Patreon page. And if you could please become a recurring Patreon of Netroots Radio, many of you already have for quite a few years, by the way. Your recurring contribution helps keep this powerhouse of resistance resisting, as it has for over 8 years, going on 9 years now, of 24/7, 365 Resistance Radio. Thank you for your generosity. If you could afford an espresso-type coffee drink sent our way once a month, we have a long experience at stretching those dollars beyond compare. And truly, all kidding aside, your generosity really does help keep this going on, and we do appreciate that generosity from the depths of our hearts and souls. Indeed. Follow Netroots Radio on Twitter at Netroots Radio. Tom takes care of that. Thank you, Tom. I, of course, take care of at Justice Putnam, and I post the show notes and links diary on Daily Co's about 10 minutes before showtime, and then get that linked up on social media for your social media linkage pleasure. Follow the show on Twitter at Cookbook West, and pick up podcasts by way of Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, iTunes, and really wherever podcasts can be found. Let's take a look at this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. It comes out of the American Independent, but it is written by anonymous worker bees at the Associated Press. The day Margarita del Pilar Fitzpatrick applied for an Illinois driver's license upended her life. When a clerk offered to register her to vote in 2005, the Peruvian citizen mistakenly accepted, leading to a long legal battle and eventual deportation. A decade and a half later, she struggles to find work at 52, is nearly homeless, and hasn't seen 2 of her 3 American citizen daughters in years because of a Secretary of State's office mishap. It has derailed our lives, she said in a phone interview from Lima. Immigrants should not be put in this situation. A handful of other immigrants could face a similar fate or criminal charges after a mistake in Illinois' automatic voter registration system allowed hundreds of people who identified themselves as non-U.S. citizens to register, and 16 cast ballots. The fiasco in a state with a reputation for election shenanigans triggered a partisan battle, infuriated voter advocacy groups, and left immigrant rights activists doing damage control. Sounds to me like this was a foobar on purpose to entrap and then point at the Democrats saying, "Oh, look, election interference, they do it all the time." Trump is already floating voter fraud because he's going to lose by even more of a percentage of actual raw votes in the popular vote again. And he's probably going to lose the Electoral College, but it'll all be because hundreds of thousands of brown people were bussed into Maine. It's disappointing because the situation could have been avoided, said Lawrence Benito, head of the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights. They voluntarily told people they were non-citizens. It is not their fault. Voting by non-citizens is forbidden by state and federal laws and is statistically rare. But Donald Trump has repeatedly made unsubstantiated claims that millions voted illegally in 2016. His comments gave a political charge to the issue and put voting modernization efforts such as automatic registration in the spotlight. The political appearance is terrible, said Jessica Levinson, a professor at Loyola Law School in Los Angeles. The political reality is people are looking for any potential sense of error when it comes to non-citizen voting to indicate things like automatic voter registration give rise to fraud. Was this mistake on purpose? I don't trust anything that the GOP does. Not one whit. Now, Illinois made headlines in 2017 when then-Governor Bruce Rauner was among the first Republicans to sign automatic voter registration into law. The multifaceted law focuses largely on the Secretary of State's office, which issues driver's license. A programming error wrongly sent data from more than 500 people to election officials, even though, when asked if they were U.S. citizens, they hit no on an electronic keypad. Ultimately, 545 people were registered. It's unclear whether some people were confused and mistakenly hit no. About half of the voters appeared to be citizens. One was confirmed as a non-citizen with legal status to live in the U.S. 6 others remain in question. Whether that individual or others yet to surface could face criminal charges boils down to the will of the prosecutors. Experts say there's little chance of charges being filed around Chicago, where the Cook County State Attorney is Democratic. However, authorities in more conservative pockets might be more inclined to act. Seal of the Associated Press brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, River City Hash Mondays. Les Ochuda was born an American just outside of California's capital city, but his citizenship mattered little after Japan bombed Pearl Harbor and the U.S. declared war. Based solely on their Japanese ancestry, the 5-year-old and his family were taken from their home in 1942 and imprisoned far away in Arkansas. They were among 120,000 Japanese Americans held at 10 internment camps during World War II. Their only fault being, we had the wrong last names and wrong faces, said Ochida, now 82, and living a short drive from where he grew up and was taken as a boy due to fear that Japanese Americans would side with Japan in the war. Assemblyman Al Murasuchi was born in Japan and is one of roughly 430,000 people of Japanese descent living in California, the largest population of any state. The Democrat who represents Manhattan Beach and other beach communities near Los Angeles introduced the resolution. We like to talk a lot about how we lead the nation by example, he said. Unfortunately, in this case, California led the racist anti-Japanese American movement. A congressional commission in 1983 concluded that the detentions were a result of racial prejudice, war hysteria, and failure of political leadership. 5 years later, the U.S. government formally apologized and paid $20,000 in reparations to each victim. The money didn't come close to replacing what was lost. Uchida said his father owned a profitable delivery business with 20 trucks. He never fully recovered from losing his business and died early. I should mention here that my stepdad is of Japanese American descent, born here, lived not too far from Dana Point. His family had a quite a large spread of farmland that they farmed and had for over 30 years. And he was, when they got taken to an internment camp, he was just about 18. And while in the internment camp, recruiters came by. You couldn't join; you could only be drafted. So they said, "Yeah, let's draft us." And he went on to fight for the 442nd, highly decorated as that whole platoon was. But they lost their farmland and never regained it back. It was sold for pennies on the dollar, by the way. The property was bought for pennies on the dollar by what became the Irvine Company. So, yeah, talk about wealth distribution. Yeah, let's not talk about wealth distribution here. Let's not. The California resolution doesn't come with any compensation. It targets the actions of the California legislature at the time for supporting the internments. 2 camps were located in the state: Manzanar on the eastern side of the Sierra Nevada in central California, and Tule Lake near the Oregon state line, the largest of all the camps. Associated Press brings us this last offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. In what is considered a major legal setback for Republican Governor Mike Dunleavy, the Alaska Supreme Court agreed to allow a group seeking to recall the Republican governor to gather signatures while the court weighs an appeal in the case. Last month, Superior Court Judge Eric Erseth put a hold on his ruling that would have allowed the recalled Dunleavy group to advance to a new signature gathering phase. In issuing the stay, Erseth agreed with arguments from recall opposition group Stand Tall with Mike, which argued that voter confusion and legal disputes could arise if the signature gathering began and the High Court subsequently invalidated part of the recall application. The order from the Supreme Court said Erseth did not expressly consider the harm to recall Dunleavy resulting from a stay. The loss of several months of signature gathering in this process is at least a not inconsiderable injury, the order states. Yeah, voter confusion. Republicans might be confused and they might accidentally sign the recall petition. But the recall petitioners, no harm done to them. Supreme Court disagreed. The order directs the State Division of Elections to prepare petition booklets forthwith for issuance to the recall group. The division previously stated that process would take a week. The court set a briefing schedule and oral arguments for March 25th. Attorney General Kevin Clarkson, in a statement, said the division is prepared to proceed according to the order that lifted the stay pending appeal. The Department of Law, which Clarkson oversees, is representing the division in this case. The division in November rejected the recall application, a decision that was based on a legal opinion from Carlson. That opinion found the reasons listed for recall were factually and legally deficient. Carlson is a Dunleavy appointee who was confirmed by lawmakers. A message seeking comment was left for an attorney with Stand Tall with Mike, but he was sitting down somewhere and couldn't be reached. Well, that brings us to our break period, and we better get on with the break. Look at the time. When we get back from that break, we are going to go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we've curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. This week, Art in the House. If the world needed a feature-length retelling of Hansel and Gretel, the flipped-around title Gretel and Hansel does provide an interesting and creative new take. In this retelling, the older sibling is Gretel, played by Sophia Lillis, who you might remember from It. The story starts to diverge from the traditional after the kids set off through the woods, where they're saved by a hunter, who we never see again, and then ingest some psychedelic mushrooms, inducing hallucinations that are somewhat predictive of where things are going. The woods aren't scary in an immersive, verdant way, but are stark and post-apocalyptic, much like the deconstructionist, triangular, and wildly out-of-place abode onto which the children eventually stumble. There's no gingerbread here, but inside there is a witch, Hulda, played by horror veteran Alice Cringe, and an endless smorgasbord of spookily mysterious sourcing. The meat, so to speak, of the movie happens inside the house, which is an unfolding tale encompassing universal themes of temptation and empowerment, especially female empowerment. Gretel is confused by what Hulda is encouraging her to embrace about herself, especially as its costs, particularly regarding her brother, become apparent. Not enough can be said about the production design and cinematography here. The movie's mostly shot 4:3 a la The Lighthouse, except for a few selected scenes. The project is the third directorial outing for Oz Perkins, son of Anthony, with acclaim from two smaller pictures in 2015 and 16. Gretel and Hansel is from a subgenre best described as cerebral horror. Its power is brooding and atmospheric, its message subtle and persistent, but for jump tricks or gore, it's best to look elsewhere. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. Catch up with us at Take Take2MovieReview.com and feed us back on our channel on YouTube.
This is Scientific American's 60-Second Science. I'm Karen Hopkin. They say that Marie Antoinette's hair turned white the night before she lost her head to the guillotine. But can stress really have such a dramatic effect on hair color? A new study in mice concludes that it can, and credits overactive nerves with stripping the color from the animal's locks, and possibly ours. Researchers at Harvard's Stem Cell Institute were interested in the stress and hair color issue. So they decided to take a closer look at the stem cells that give rise to melanocytes, the cells that pump pigments into each hair follicle. The stem cells were an obvious target.
Because changes in the stem cell population translates to changes in hair color, which are very visible and easy to identify.
Yache Su, the study's senior author. To start, she and her colleagues subjected mice to some rodent-sized stressors, like having their cage tilted, their bedding dampened, or their lights left on all night.
So what did we find? We found that stress indeed leads to premature hair graying in mice, but it took a long time for us to actually narrow down how it occurs.
First, they thought it could be the immune system attacking the melanocyte stem cell population.
However, mice lack immune cells still show premature hair graying under stress.
Then, they thought the key factor could be cortisol, the quintessential stress hormone.
But when we remove the adrenal gland from the mice so that they cannot produce cortisol-like hormones, their hair still turn gray under stress.
And that's when they turn their attention to the sympathetic nervous system, which orchestrates the body's overall reaction to stress, including the classic fight-or-flight response. Those nerves reach out to our muscles, organs, and yes, even our hair.
The nerve terminals wrap around each hair follicle like a ribbon.
And when Sue and her team cut those connections, the stem cells were spared, and the animals kept their shiny black coat even in the face of minor discomfort. The findings appear in the journal Nature. It's unclear whether the same sympathetic nerves make us gray as we age, but the results provide hope that we may someday be able to fight to hold on to our natural hair color and avoid that monthly flight to the hairdresser. Thanks for listening. For Scientific American's 60-Second Science, I'm Karen Hopkin.
This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
As the days get longer and the weather warms, people of all ages will start to spring into action. Spring is a great time to breathe fresh air, stretch your arms and legs, and get physically active outdoors. Lack of physical activity contributes to obesity, heart disease, stroke, and other chronic health conditions. Fortunately, many communities are making it easier and safer to be physically active. Neighborhoods across the country are working together to create more public spaces for walking, running, biking, and other physical activities. Adults should get at least 150 minutes of physical activity each week, and children should get 60 minutes a day. If you find it hard to walk to a local recreation center, park, or playground, learn how to make your neighborhood a place that makes healthy living easier. Visit makinghealtheasier.org for information about ways communities can change to get more people outside and moving.
For the most accurate health information, visit www.cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
This is a message from CDC.
After hurricanes, tornadoes, and floods, standing water and excess moisture help mold grow in your home, garage, and other structures. When you return to a home that has been flooded, know that you're likely to have mold. Mold puts your family's health at risk. If you have mold growing in your home, you should clean it up and fix other water problems, such as leaks in roofs, walls, or plumbing. Keep your children and pets out of affected areas until you've cleaned. Control moisture in your home to prevent mold growth. To remove mold growth from hard surfaces, use commercial products, soap and water, or a bleach solution of no more than 1 cup of household laundry bleach in 1 gallon of water. Follow the manufacturer's instructions. Never mix bleach with ammonia or other household cleaners. It will produce dangerous, toxic fumes. Open windows and doors to provide fresh air.
For more information, visit cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Welcome to A Cup of Health with CDC, a weekly feature of the MMWR, the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report. I'm your host, Dr. Kathleen Dooling. From a very young age, we're encouraged to eat fruits and vegetables. Unfortunately, many Americans are not getting the message. Dr. Seung-Hee Lee Kwan is with CDC's National Center for Chronic Disease Prevention and Health Promotion. She's joining us today to discuss the importance of eating enough fruits and vegetables. Welcome to the show, Seung-Hee.
Thank you for having me.
Seung-Hee, what is the recommended amount of fruits and vegetables?
The federal guidelines recommend that adults consume at least 1.5 cups to 2 cups of fruit and 2 to 3 cups of vegetables each day. This is for adults who get less than 30 minutes of physical activity a day. Adults who are more physically active need more calories and thus should be eating more fruits and vegetables. 1 cup is about 12 strawberries or 1 large tomato.
How many people consume the recommended amount of fruits and vegetables?
We found that very few adults are getting enough fruits and vegetables. Just 12% are eating the recommended amount of fruits, and less than 1 in 10 eat enough vegetables. And consumption is lower among men, young adults, and adults living in poverty.
Why is eating a diet rich in fruits and vegetables so important?
Eating a diet rich in fruits and vegetables can help with 3 things. 1, it can reduce the risk of many leading causes of illness and deaths, such as heart disease, type 2 diabetes, some cancers, and even obesity. It can also add important nutrients that are commonly missing in Americans' diet. And it can help with weight management if adults consume fruits and vegetables instead of other calorie-dense foods.
How can we meet the recommended daily intake of fruits and vegetables?
Try to fill half of your plate with fruits or vegetables at each meal or every eating occasion. Making fruits and vegetables the focal point of your meal will help you meet your recommendations. For example, recent studies have shown that adults get most of their fruit during breakfast and snacks. So you can try adding berries to your morning oatmeal or grab a piece of fresh fruit as an afternoon snack. For vegetables, most adults eat them at dinner, so try adding more into your lunch by adding a side salad or packing a snack of baby carrots or grape tomatoes.
Are canned or frozen products just as good as fresh?
All forms of fruits and vegetables count towards meeting the recommendations. For the most health benefits, make sure that the fruits and vegetables you consume have a limited amount of salt, butter, sugar, or creamy sauces. When selecting canned fruits, choose the ones with lowest sugars. And for canned or frozen vegetables, choose those lower in sodium.
Where can listeners get more information about eating a healthy diet?
Listeners can go to cdc.gov/nutrition or choosemyplate.gov.
Thanks, Seung-Hee. I've been talking today with Seung-Hee Lee Kwan about the importance of eating a healthy diet. Eating a diet rich in fruits and vegetables can help reduce the risk of many leading causes of illness and death and add important nutrients to your diet. Make sure you're eating enough. Until next time, be well. This is Dr. Kathleen Dooling for A Cup of Health with CDC.
For the most accurate health information, visit cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
4 U.S. prosecutors quit Stone case after bosses step in to overrule them. That was the headline. Here's the story. I'm Bill Newman, and this is the Civil Liberties Minute. Roger Stone, President Trump's longtime friend, was convicted in federal court last November of lying to investigators and witness tampering and obstructing the House Intelligence Committee investigation into Russia's interference with the 2016 presidential election. In February, after prosecutors filed papers recommending a 7 to 9 year prison sentence for Stone, Trump tweeted, "Cannot allow this miscarriage of justice." Then, the higher-ups in the DOJ intervened to withdraw the recommendation and recommend a much more lenient punishment, which caused the 4 career prosecutors to quit the case and 1 to quit the department altogether. Trump, who had claimed no involvement whatsoever, then effusively praised Attorney General William Barr for acting to help out his buddy, Roger Stone. At stake here is something far more important than a sentencing recommendation. The Department of Justice historically operates independently of presidential influence. Now the president and his attorney general are in lockstep, using the power of the Department of Justice for the benefit and protection of the president's friends and political allies. What this episode exposes is a crucial part of the edifice of checks and balances crumbling. That's stone cold scary. The Civil Liberties Minute is made possible by the ACLU because freedom can't protect itself.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1932. That was the day that working people in the United States said goodbye to one of their great heroes. Florence Kelley was born in 1859. Her father, William D. Kelley, was a U.S. Senator. Senator Kelley was an abolitionist and was concerned about the conditions under which working people toiled. He passed that concern on to his daughter. Florence enjoyed the finest education, studying at Cornell University, the University of Zurich, and the Union College of Law. She became a vocal opponent of child labor and sweatshop conditions. She found camaraderie with like-minded women, including Jane Addams and Ellen Gates Starr at Hull House in Chicago. Kelley soon became an important addition to the work of this famed settlement house. Jane Addams' nephew remembered her as the finest rough-and-tumble fighter for the good life of others that Hull House ever knew. She began to visit local factories around Hull House to document unsafe working conditions and the use of child labor. Based on her careful research, the Illinois Legislature passed a law banning children under the age of 14 from working in factories. Florence was named the first ever chief factory inspector in the state of Illinois. From Chicago, she moved on to New York, where she helped to found the National Consumer League. The league supported the fight for the 8-hour workday and was a leader in the fight against sweatshops. Florence was also a founding member of the NAACP. She helped to found the National Child Labor Committee, a group dedicated to ending child labor. In response to their work, in 1912, the U.S. Children's Bureau became part of the federal government. It was the only federal agency at the time run by women. Like what you hear? Check out more at laborhistoryin2.com.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy River City Hash Mondays. We always begin weather from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 32 degrees Fahrenheit, expecting a high in the low 50s. Overnight lows should be in the mid to low 30s, and daytime highs should be in the low to mid 50s for most of the week. Expecting, overnight lows once again will be in the low to mid 30s. Expecting pretty much partly cloudy with some sunny conditions throughout the week. Winds will be picking up out of the east-northeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour in about 2 hours from now, and should have clear skies overnight. When the winds will shift out of the northeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour, will be light and variable tomorrow. And it looks like, once again, we'll have some sunny conditions, mostly sunny conditions for the rest of the week. The nighttime lows will be low enough, though, that it looks like we might have some snowy mix of rain and snow coming this weekend. We'll see if that still happens. We're a few days out on that. Pollen is rated at none. The air quality index locally is good at 23 parts per million, and the daytime UV index is moderate at 3. Barometric pressure is falling at 30.41 inches. Visibility is down to 4 miles. Pretty foggy right here at the mothership currently, and relative humidity is at 84%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. These people planted these purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property, and these people positively live around the world. Oh my, I have a bit of a stuffy nose. I do apologize if you hear any kind of crackling. Well, right now, London is 51 and partly cloudy. Paris is 52 and partly cloudy. Rome is 60 degrees and sunny. Kyiv is 45 and mostly cloudy. Kabul is 38 and fair. Hong Kong is 52 degrees and clear. Tokyo is 43 and partly cloudy. Sydney, Australia is 70 degrees and mostly cloudy. San Francisco, California is 47 degrees and partly cloudy. And New York, New York is 45 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. These people planted these purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property, and these people positively live around the world. First, a booze-boosh here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy is out of Reuters, and unfortunately is not loading, but I can tell you very quickly what it's about. A cadre of Filipina mothers, grandmothers, and aunties have been disrupting. They actually call themselves the Disruptors. They have been disrupting Duterte's death squads as they've been out performing their extrajudicial drug killings. Anybody who might be deemed a buyer or seller of drugs is killed immediately in the middle of the street or wherever they might happen to find them. And oftentimes it's not about drugs. It's about petty concerns like political affiliations, say. Well, this cadre of mothers, grandmothers, and aunties have been putting their lives in the middle of these death squads and their intended targets, and they've disrupted them to the point where they are now international heroes.
Je te donne c'est mon amour pour la vie entière. La promesse de me trouver à tes genoux. Aussitôt que tu m'appelles, rester toujours fidèle. C'est tout, c'est tout. Je te donne tous mes printemps, mes étés de mer, mes automnes quand les feuilles tombent partout. Si ce n'est pas une bonne affaire, je te donne tous mes hivers, c'est tout.
This final amuse-bouche here at the chef's table is brought to us by anonymous worker bees at Reuters. Syrian state media said government forces had seized most of rebel-held Aleppo province in another major gain by a Russian-backed offensive. Russian warplanes mounted heavy airstrikes in the area yesterday, Sunday, bombing towns including Anadan, which was later seized by Syrian government forces backed by Iranian-backed militias, Syrian activists reported. Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day, but you do know Netroots Radio's broadcasting on, and we'll meet up tomorrow for Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks, and we'll meet up here tomorrow, right here, in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.